Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. Your top stories this evening. The culpable homicide trial of Duduzane Zuma gets underway, with an eyewitness claiming he was speeding on the night his Porsche crashed into a minibus taxi in 2014.
It was coming from his own personal account.
Or it came from his own personal account?
Yes.
The Zondo Commission hears from Bosasa's former auditor, who confirms that R500,000 was paid by Gavin Watson to President Cyril Ramaphosa's son. And could independent power suppliers be the answer to Eskom's power crunch? The Energy Minister seems to think so. We also have sports and business news. It's a very good evening to you, Jeffrey Stevens, and to you, Rafiwa Maitena.
Very good evening to you, Sally, and some positive news for a change. South Africa has recorded its first increase in employment in 6 months. But how significant is this? We find out.
And in your sport, Bafana were greeted by thousands of fans when they touched down on home soil after booking a spot in the Africa Cup of Nations.
A 73-year-old pensioner is claiming Duduzane Zuma was speeding when his Porsche crashed into a packed taxi in February 2014. Now, Phumzile Dube died at the scene of that accident. Taxi passenger Noni Ndakani is among the 4 witnesses called by the state in the businessman's culpable homicide and negligent driving trial, which got underway today. While protesters outside claim the former president's son was being targeted for political reasons, inside the court, the matter of who should take responsibility for the crash got underway. Malungelo Boy reports.
Duduzane Zuma arrived at the Randburg Magistrates Court charged with 2 counts of culpable homicide and negligent driving. But prosecutors withdrew one of the culpable homicide charges, saying the passenger who died after the crash, Noni Jeanette Mashaba, had a pre-existing condition.
The state arrived at a decision to withdraw the second culpable homicide charge against Mr. Duduzane Zuma. This was after consultation with a pathologist, which then revealed that there was an intervening factor not related to the accident.
The businessman has pleaded not guilty, but admits he lost control of his vehicle. Present in court for the first time were the relatives of Phumzile Dube, who died at the scene. The state has called 4 witnesses so far, including the driver of the minibus taxi Vusi Dlamini, as well as passenger Noni Ndakani. Ndakane told the court prior to the accident she saw Zuma's car spinning, veering off the road and back. She's adamant he was speeding. She's also detailed how after the crash, one of the taxi passengers was stuck under the seat, while another was hanging out of the window. She became visibly irritated during cross-examination, forcing the judge to intervene. The Dube family says it wants closure. The trial continues on Wednesday. Malungelo Boy, Randburg.
To the State Capture Commission, and former Bosasa auditor Piet Venter has confirmed that Gavin Watson paid President Cyril Ramaphosa's son from his personal account. Now, Venter says he was instructed by Watson to deposit R500,000 into Andile Ramaphosa's Foundation Trust. He says he didn't ask any questions because he feared Watson.
Gavin Watson took me to Natasha Olivier and instructed her to pay R3 million from his personal account into my Auto Trading and Advisory Holdings Pty Limited bank account. It must be noted that I could not question Gavin Watson, as he would get upset with me, so I made the payments even though I knew that this was not correct. The R2.5 million was for the purchase of Ms. Gouse's residential property, and R500,000 to EFG2 were an ABSA bank account. I was merely told it was for a foundation trust of Andile Ramaphosa, the son of the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. I found this strange, but wouldn't dare question Mr. Gavin Watson.
Well, political commentator Karima Brown says the Watson payment raises significant issues within the Bosasa state capture web.
We have heard the fact that, of course, Pusasa had made a donation, but we've never known where it came from precisely, because this was not a genuine business. A set of front companies, as you see, has been set up to, get monies and move monies around. But in this instance, the former auditor of the business was very specific. He said it came from one of Gavin Watson's many personal accounts. And the evidence leader actually asked him, how do you know that? And he said, it's because a particular person, Gavin Watson's daughter, deals with those accounts. So he was very emphatic about that. And I think it's quite significant that is, of course, the issue.
Well, the State Capture Commission continues tomorrow. Energy Minister Jeff Radebe says coal power will continue to be South Africa's main source of electricity, but he's calling on independent power producers and gas producers to speed up development to contribute to the grid. The minister is blaming procurement processes at the Medupi and Kusile power stations for the Eskom crisis. He was addressing an Africa Power Supply roundtable in Johannesburg today. Govan Whittles reports.
Sidestepping tough questions.
Minister, it's Govan from ENCA. Can you respond to claims that you're trying to secretly push through the Sudan oil can?
But Jeff Radebe did have plenty to say about independent power producers.
Looking at the challenges that South Africa is facing with the crisis at Eskom, I foresee more role for renewables because they are getting cheaper and cheaper all the time.
He says the gazetting of the much-anticipated integrated resource plan is imminent. This will pave the way for a more viable energy source, gas.
If you want to do thousands of megawatt, the quickest and easiest way to do it is using gas. The next step that you can look at is with regard to the costs vis-a-vis diesel. Gas is better. If you're going to be looking at pollution levels, gas is better.
From Marubeni.
But other power producers are less optimistic.
In South Africa, where you expect the developer to put the development cost down and get the entire permits and approval process, 7 years is good luck on the gas to power program, because the silos and the requirements to get all of those permits are phenomenal. You then have the NGOs that will challenge. They've challenged the coal, and I can assure you they will challenge the gas.
Radebe says the recent judgment dismissing an interdict against IPPs means some of the renewable companies can start selling power to Eskom immediately. Govan Whittles, Johannesburg.
So seemingly more hopeful news on Eskom this week. No load shedding this week, and signs that perhaps independent and alternative energy suppliers could come online and help share the burden of supplying electricity. To discuss this in further detail, we're joined now by Ted Blom, a partner at Mining and Energy Advisors. Mr. Blom, thank you very much for joining us. No load shedding this week. We're of course all delighted. We've been told that one of the Kahora Bassa lines has been repaired, and that the diesel has arrived, so we can get those, start spending lots of money on powering those diesel turbines. But how do we go from stage 4 to nothing in a matter of days? And is the crisis actually over? Okay, so I think Eskom needs to answer how they pulled a magical rabbit out of the hat. It's crazy, and it's not a prudent thing to do. What would have been prudent was to use that space over the weekend to bring more units back into service, rather than to pump every last inch into the grid, given that you've already pre-warned people that there are hard times ahead. Now, how long will this last? I stand by what I say, that under the current scenarios and with the current inaction by Eskom and the government to sign up new coal suppliers, 5 years or longer. And of course, while we burn all this diesel, that's costing us millions, I think billions. It's $1 billion a month, yeah. Okay, so that is just surely not sustainable. But some hopeful news potentially from Minister Radebe saying, encouraging the independent power suppliers to really move quickly now to come online. Could that be the answer? Absolutely. I think that the more the merrier. I think the grid needs to be opened up. It's something that's long due. What I'm hoping for is that the playing field will be levelized after the grid is opened up, because it currently is not levelized. In what way is it not level? The current bid windows 1 to 4.5.
have a preferential treatment to the grid. They are carving out the life out of Eskom. And
sorry, I don't understand that. The current, the 1 to 4, what is that?
So the current renewable program that has been signed off by the government, they have priority access to the grid.
And those are the ones who are creating 3,000 megawatts a month, am I right?
2,000 plus 1,000. No. Sorry, that's the OCGTs. So the current renewables are just under 3,000, if I could say, and will go to 6.5 under the 57 new agreements that the minister signed last year.
Yes.
So they have preferential access to the grid. The dispatch rules were amended to make provision for the IPPs to have first bite of the cherry.
So the barriers to entry are still too high, is what I'm hearing from you.
Well, it's even penalising Eskom.
Right. Now, 20,000 megawatts by 2030, that's what the minister said in alternative renewable power. That's half our power needs. Is that really possible?
Well, if it all had to come from wind turbines and they wanted to really go green all the way, South Africa, like the UK, probably wouldn't have enough land. These units are not efficient.
But we have gas now offshore as well. Is that going to do it?
The gas could help a lot. I mean, certainly if the gas is priced at the right level, it's very instantly dispatchable, which the other renewables are not dispatchable. Well, gas is not a renewable either. But anyway, gas is immediately dispatchable, which is a very good, useful tool in the grid management and stability of the grid. So yes, I look forward to that happening ASAP, because we cannot afford more load shedding. It's costing us jobs and everything. And there is a quicker solution, but Eskom won't like to hear it. And that is to open up the grid to current household solar. You and I can all go to our independent suppliers, and we could have 8 gigawatts of power into the grid within 90 days. And that would solve the daytime power shortages, not the nighttime.
So if I converted my house to solar, I could then feed into the grid. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And if you did it immediately without waiting for Eskom, you would get the Eskom tariff.
Sounds fantastic to me.
That's the way to do it.
I'm going to look into it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ted Blom. Always a pleasure to chat to you. That's energy analyst Ted Blom there. Moving on now, an acting Public Investment Corporation CEO, Matshepo More, has been placed on precautionary suspension. The PIC board has moved swiftly, replacing her with Vuyani Hako. Now, the decision to suspend More was based on allegations that she interfered with the Commission of Inquiry probing dubious investments made by the State Asset Management Company. The board says her removal should help PIC staff feel free to participate in the inquiry. And earlier today, the North Gauteng High Court ruled in favour of the PIC in their case against the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. In February, the Commission issued the PIC with a compliance notice giving it 15 days to recoup 4.3 billion rand invested in AO Technologies. But today, the court found the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission's notice was irrational and not procedurally fair. Moving to Cape Town and Western Cape Housing, MEC Monginkosi Madikizela says the country will never be able to solve the housing crisis, and the only real solution is for people to build their own homes on service land provided by government. Beladi Situsa has that story.
Only 213,000 houses or flats have been built for the poor in the Western Cape over the past decade, failing to make a significant dent in the 500,000 long housing waiting list. And there's little to no hope that the next 10 years will even halve that demand.
It is a pipe dream to ever think that we will be able to eradicate 1, informal settlements, and 2, build a house for everyone who needs it.
In fact, he says the qualifying criteria must be overhauled.
If you have a criteria that says once you turn 18 and you have a baby, you can register for a house. Now, that is ridiculous. No matter how much money we spend to build houses, this situation will continue until we change the criteria.
Madikizela believes people must pick up their proverbial shovels to assist.
If you are governing well and you attract investment, that investment will create jobs. And then once people start to find work, they must build their own homes. That should be our role as government. We can't be in a business of building houses for people.
He says some of the 500 informal settlements in the province may be here to stay, with upgrading them through services and road infrastructure their only hope. Piledi Sutusa, Cape Town.
Still ahead on eNews, doctors from around the world are working frantically to reduce the risk of a cholera outbreak in the Mozambican town of Beira.
And in your business news, the rand should be benefiting from the weaker dollar, but it's under pressure on fears of slower global growth.
Talking business now with Refuwa Madzena, and you have good news for us tonight. I'm so excited. Employment figures are out for the fourth quarter of last year, and they're up.
Exactly, Sally. So we saw an increase in employment for the fourth quarter, as you say, about 87,000 jobs created in the fourth quarter. And we saw this in the business services, financial services, as well as other secondary and tertiary industries. What was the problem, though, was that primary sector, so your mining, manufacturing, and construction, saw a very big decline. And we saw this was about, I think, for construction, it was about 18,000 jobs that were lost. Mining, 7,000 jobs that were lost. So that is something that we need to work on. And of course, dealing with power issues, the strikes, it's not a sector that's going to be getting any better anytime soon. What we did see, though, I mean, you'd be asking if this is significant at all, is that not really, because a lot of the jobs that were created, so the 87,000 that we speak of, were seasonal jobs. So these were jobs that were created in the festive season. Although we might see a little bit of an uptick until after the elections, because it's been noted that government has also been creating some jobs ahead of the elections, so election campaigners, people who create posters and the like. So that's what we're seeing. But economists are saying, though, Sally, that it's just not enough to make a dent in that 27.1% unemployment that we have in the country at the moment. So it's good news, but not so good news.
Well, good news for the individuals affected, I'm sure, but
absolutely.
For the economy as a whole, not enough to get our economy growing as it needs to.
Absolutely, Sally, that's right.
How are the markets today?
So the markets had a better day than they did yesterday, Sally. So the JSE was firmer today, with gains mostly due to a strong performance by the rand hedges as well as your diversified miners. But the banking index was weighed down by Capitec, which fell about 1.9% ahead of its full year results this Thursday. Onto commodities now. The gold price fell today, retreating from a near 1 month peak it hit yesterday, and this is as traders turned their attention to global equity markets. Meanwhile, oil prices were higher on the back of supply cuts as well as those US sanctions on Venezuela. Onto the local unit now. The rand failed to fully benefit from the dollar weakness. Now, it was driven by the potential of the US falling into a recession in the coming quarter.
Thank you very much, Refuwa. We'll chat again to you tomorrow. Now let's move to international news. And the Mozambican government is preparing for a cholera outbreak it says is inevitable after the devastation of Cyclone Idai. Nurses in the central port city of Beira have been distributing chlorinated water. They hope this will act as a temporary solution to prevent waterborne diseases. The International Red Cross says the situation in Mozambique is a ticking time bomb after heavy rains and flooding left over 700 people dead. Doctors Without Borders says the cholera outbreak could spread quickly due to Beira's dense population. Still ahead, we'll go to our weather centre for your live weather. Louis standing by. And then, big in the UK and Europe in the late 70s, the music of the Brotherhood of Breath lives on. Let's get all your weather news with Louis Fernandez in Cape Town. Good evening to you, Louis. What can you tell us?
Good evening, Sally. Well, there's lots of cold air that continues to move in over the eastern parts of South Africa overnight, bringing drizzle and fog to the escarpment areas. And that will continue well into the early parts of Wednesday. And at the same time, cloudy conditions will spread across the Highveld. So if you're in Gauteng as well as parts of the Free State, you can expect lots of cloud to start your day off. There will be a gradual clearance taking place, and then in the afternoon, a possibility of a few very isolated thunder showers extending into the central parts. For the Northern Cape, it is going to be a dry Wednesday, lots of sunshine, a hot afternoon for Uppington, 38 degrees as a maximum temperature. And those temperatures in the Western Cape interior will also climb above 30, and it will be a lovely warm afternoon for the Garden Route, 26 in Mossel Bay and a high of 28 into George. Similar for Port Elizabeth, and as you head towards the far northern parts of the Eastern Cape, there's a very small chance of a few thunder showers as well. A cloudy start to the day for KwaZulu-Natal with drizzle and fog patches over the province, but a slow clearance will take place and hopefully some sunshine will be coming through. And similar conditions expected for Mpumalanga. We are going to see a fair amount of cloud hanging around throughout the course of the day in the eastern parts of this province. There could also be some light rain for the eastern mountainous areas of Limpopo. A cloudy morning for the province as well. We're going to see a slow clearance taking place. And then into the northwest, we're going to have a few isolated thunder showers, but the chances are quite low, and similar conditions extending into parts of the Free State where Bloemfontein will be dry. And then finally for Gauteng, a cloudy morning, becoming partly cloudy, and at first there could also be a few patches of light rain, and certainly going to be a cooler day in the province. And then a quick look ahead to what you can expect for Thursday. A few thunder showers in the east, Gauteng's temperatures bouncing back, Johannesburg at 28, and then Friday is going to be hot across the interior with lots of sunshine. 31 degrees is a high for Johannesburg and 33 into Pretoria. That's the story from the Weather Centre. Back to you, Sally.
Thank you very much, Louis. And finally, a group of South African musicians exiled in the late 70s is back. Now, they played abroad with legendary South African musician and composer Chris McGregor, whose Brotherhood of Breath was influential in the European free jazz movement. Now, McGregor died before he could realize his dream of coming home. The band was formed in the 60s and went on to achieve critical acclaim in the